So, obviously, there's a lot of scenes here. We can bounce around between doing different things. It's not exactly set up very well, but whatever, it's quick for this. So, first things first, you make a scene. Just first add, make a name, then you add sources. Need to add game capture for games. So when you add game capture, I'll just do it now. I have these existing ones, but whatever. Let's see if I can edit them easily without switching. I don't think so. Anyway. I'll just make a new one temporarily, just as an example. So, you do capture any full screen. This seemed to work pretty well up until this version. So I switched to a specific window and then did Halfway to Deathmatch, which is here. So, also settings. I've been playing with force scaling, and you have to type in 1280 by 720. That seems to work pretty well. Not sure if it's better or not, but it's a different way of doing it. But then you have these settings. By default, the anti-cheat is on, unlike the old version, I believe. I've been using that. I'm also checking this box so I can capture Steam stuff, and I also do limit capture frame rate because I'm getting somewhere on the lines of like 600 and stuff like that FPS in Halfway to Deathmatch, which you don't exactly want to be capturing all of that. That helps a lot. So that's the general gist for that. Next up is let's do desktop audio and stuff. So in order to compensate for the game being so loud, I've jumped into desktop audio and I've put in this little audio filter for gain and turned the gain down by 3.5 dB. That seems to help, so I can actually talk over it a little bit. In this new version, my webcam's microphone doesn't seem to be very loud, so I've actually edited that one to be up by 5 for now. That's just for playing. Also, my webcam here has a microphone which it was trying to capture from at the same time as the default microphone, which caused a really annoying audio glitch effect. So people say to turn it off. Well, I didn't see a way of turning it off. So I had to come into here and switch it to a custom capture device, and I switched it to my Logitech headset, which is this. Which you think, hey, but that's going to capture this. No. It's because I have my Logitech headset plugged into the actual audio jack, not on my Logitech sound card, which is what that's picking up. My old USB sound card because it's crap. So that's picking up nothing. So that means I'm not getting weird interference like I was before. You can also see some settings in here. It's nothing special. I was literally just playing with them, trying to make it look good and not be a pain in the butt. Basically, I'm switching color palettes based on how they brighten up my face and stuff. Not trying anything hard. The only thing I've done that's specific is I've disabled the buffer so that it doesn't get out of sync. Technically, that means my FPS is limited down to 15, though I was able to get 30 at some point in the past. I'm not sure what happened. I tried dropping down the resolution. It wasn't working, so I'm like, fine, I'll just use decent res and 15 FPS, because why not, instead of talking head. So, get to the nitty-gritty. Go to settings. I'm using the dark theme because I like to. This is absolutely optional stuff. I have it so the recording keeps going when the stream stops, just in case. And I do the tray icon thing because I prefer the icon in the tray. No big deal. Anyway, so the stuff that's important, you can usually set your stuff here. Nothing fancy here. So this is fun. It's a little bit grayed out, fortunately, since I'm recording now. But I'm using QuickSync, which is a Intel hardware on board, whatever video on your motherboard. Basically, it's the video card you're not using because you're using a good video card for playing games. So why not use the hardware you have for recording them? So like that. I recommend using a variable bitrate type encoder. There's a couple of these in here. I don't recommend just going down the list, but actually understanding what these are. I was using, I think, ICQ for a little bit, which resulted in much smaller files, but I was having a bit of issues with playback on YouTube. That's because that's not an actual standard. So it doesn't know how to read it in every player. So runs fine in VLC. It's not worth it for everything else. So LA is actually one of the standards. Runs pretty well. It's not directly meant for live. It adds a delay. And I actually have a look-ahead depth of 40 frames here. So it's not live, but it's higher quality. That's what I care about. I don't really care that much about it being, oh my gosh, it's happening right now. Oh no, you're 30 to 1 minute second, like whatever behind, who cares? So focus on quality. I'm also scaling it, although I've unchecked this box here, so whatever. I'm playing with some different settings here. I'm also recording at the exact same output, although it's scaling here but not there. Whatever, we'll see what's happening. And then audio. I don't care that much about audio quality. To be insane, I'd rather to keep that bandwidth, even though it's just a little bit. So I'm using 96 at the moment. You can find videos on YouTube that play different sound segments at different bit rates, so you can kind of compare. 96 is fine. Like 128 is a lot of people recommend. If you want to do it, fine, but I don't care. So I am using, rather than 44, 48. That's just because that's the only settings available for my microphone. It doesn't actually have 44. So I figured I'd match it just to, not have to do any sort of weirdness before it goes out. And I have all the ones set to disabled. And I don't know. Oh, that's right. I do use the Logitech headset for sound, obviously. Kind of listen to it. I don't have a delay right now. I might need to set one of those. I've had to in the past, about 200 milliseconds for microphone. I haven't tried to sync, so whatever, this recording is what it is. So, this is where some fun stuff happens. I have it set to 1080 and scaled to 720. Normally, I would not recommend using such a high sharpening filter. I would instead use the middle one, the bilinear or bicubic. I think it's bilinear. Because it's moving video. Typically, you don't need to do this kind of crazy scaling, but honestly, it's a little broken right now in the beta anyway, so it's kind of best to use the best you can get. But for future, probably drop it down. In the old version, it made more sense not to use this one either. So just FYI. Hotkeys, pretty self-explanatory. I just have some basic ones in this. I haven't really customized it since the old version. Advanced, I always set this to above normal, and I also set my game to above normal. That means that anything else that's going on, typical tasks, aren't going to get in the way. Seems to help the quality of the game, and this goes as well as possible. You can drop these to a bit to partial in 601, stuff like that. Basically, that means you're intending them to be played on television. Yeah, this is kind of meant for PC gaming, although I do kind of like watching videos on my Chromecast. It's not a big deal to have these set to where they're at. So, really nothing that fancy in here. This is a much simpler program than the old version. I just recommend copying these settings. If you're going to be streaming to Twitch, they're going to say drop that bit rate down to 3500, and I say thanks Twitch, what a waste. I understand wanting to keep stuff conservative, but if you're going to be sending out 720p at 60 FPS, and you're going to have to limit it down to 35 bitrate, you better have something doing some crazy encoding on your end to make that possible. And I don't want to do that. I don't have a capture card or anything. So, yeah, you can try as much as you want to use 3500, and it'll work. Yeah, it'll definitely work. It'll look really sloppy. So if you're going to do that, at least use something better for local recording. For YouTube, YouTube's nice. YouTube actually recommends that you use around that rate, and I think it works pretty well. So I recommend that. Also, keyframe rate of 2. That's been kind of a requirement for YouTube for a while. So yeah, pretty general. So that's kind of the gist of it. There's not too much else going on. I also recommend you, can't see right now, but save your profiles whenever you make major changes or have some ideas. There's not really a way of saving it like you could in the old version, but autosave's not bad either. I guess the only other thing that's kind of worth exploring is transforming your view. For example, I just scaled this up really quick, which I really shouldn't have done. I should have done some math like I did for it here, which is really tiny, and you can now just see a bunch of black screen. But whatever. Let me look at my numbers real fast. I'm using 27, 23, 2. Okay. So let's try to get some of that stuff remade here. Because it'll look better. So, hi. 60, and I have it set to maximum size only. I have it set to top left, and I have this set to 320 by 250, I think. Yeah, so let me go back real fast and check those settings, because I'm using a crop on this one, but I really don't care for that right now. Yeah, I copied everything exactly except for the crop. So, yay, I'm a tiny little head now. But, yeah, it works. Let's see if I can choose some different scaling options. See if it works any better. But honestly, I don't care because it's a talking head. So we'll see if any of those look better, but honestly, I'm not seeing any difference really. So that's that. Yeah, that's all she wrote for now. Let's see how this comes out.